morning everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we will be doing a video that I have been wanting to make since before I even had a YouTube channel. And this is something that you as a vet student will have to deal with from about the moment that you tell people that you want to apply for vet school for the rest of your life, pretty much. And that is the thing of someone will come up to you and they'll say, "Hey, you're studying vet, right?" And you'll be like, "Oh yeah." And they'd be like, "Okay, so you know my dog." And they'll give you a list of symptoms and stuff that is wrong with their dog, and they want you to tell them what they have to do. For people who do not study vet school, you will not believe how often this happens. It is scary. So today I am just going to be doing a quick video about what to do in that situation, and for people who do it, maybe some things for you to keep in mind if you do that. So yeah, let's just get into the video. Okay, so firstly, all the people, all my friends and family who does this to me, I don't really mind. I actually enjoy it sometimes. It gives me some type of experience, and you really don't need to stop. But there are a few things that you might have to keep in mind if you want to ask me or any other vet student these kinds of questions. So firstly, I want to point out that I am second year right now. And for 90%, 99% of the problems that you come to me with, I have no idea what to do. I don't know what I am supposed to be doing to make your dog stop vomiting or to make your cat stop running around the house like crazy. To give you guys an idea of how it works at Onderstepoort is, first year we are at main campus and we basically just study a year of BSc, so a bachelor's in science, just to sort of make sure that everyone is on the same page and everyone is up to date with all their work. So we have subjects like physics and chemistry and math, stuff like that. It's not really stuff that would help me as a vet, definitely not something that would help me to tell you what is wrong with your pet. And then second year, we are at Onderstepoort campus, and then we start learning what the normal functions are of an animal, you know, what it's supposed to look like, how it's supposed to work. Then third and fourth year, we learn everything that can go wrong. And then only in our fifth and final years do we learn how to correct that. So I cannot help you until I'm basically done studying. So right now I am completely clueless. I most likely cannot help you at all unless I happen to know exactly what is wrong with the dog, if you can give me the exact symptoms. For example, if someone sent me a video of a dog having an epileptic attack, I'd be able to tell them that that's what it is because we had a dog with epilepsy. But not your everyday random vet student that you walk up to will have seen an epileptic attack, because it's not something that you have to deal with on a daily basis. So just so that you know that, we are pretty much clueless at this point. Some people have more experience with certain things, but most of us are pretty much useless at this point. The second thing is that even when we are qualified, even qualified vets, it's very difficult to make a diagnosis over the phone. It's not something that you can just be like, okay, so your dog has been walking funny for a few days and he's not eating, so I am sure that this is what's wrong. It's a very complicated and long process to make a diagnosis. You have to actually see the animal, you have to feel certain things, you have to observe how they are acting, you have to quite often do tests, whether it's a blood smear or a urine test or whatever. You quite often have to do tests to be able to make a diagnosis. So even if you do contact a vet over the phone and you're like, okay, well, this is what's wrong with my dog, they'll usually have to tell you, listen, bring the dog in so that I can look at it, because it's not really a long distance type of profession. It's really a hands-on type thing. And then the last thing that really makes it ironic to me that people ask me what they should do with their pets is that my answer will almost always be, take it to the vet. If there is something wrong with your dog, take it to the vet. I'm not a vet, I can't help you. Even if I were a vet, you'd have to bring it to me. So just take your dog to the vet and make the process easier. But it is also a thing of that vets are fairly expensive. I will admit this. I've had to deal with vets my entire life because we've had pets my entire life, and they are expensive. So you cannot just rush your dog to the vet for any tiny small thing. So I understand. But for example, if your dog has been sick for 3 days, that should tell you that there is something wrong enough that it needs to be fixed at this point. So take the dog to the vet. Now, another reason why it sort of bothers me a bit when people ask me is that I know that I cannot give them an accurate answer, but I still don't want to look completely stupid. I don't want to tell people I've been going to school for 12 years, I've been shadowing for 5 years, I've been going to vet school for a year and a half, and I have absolutely no answer for you. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that to them, and I don't want to do it to myself. I don't want to go down that road. It is scary how little I know in the way of helping animals at this point. You learn a lot about them, but at this point, I really don't know how to fix anything that's wrong. And I don't want to admit that to myself or to anyone else. So I always try to give some sort of answer. And I think it also helps because, say you are a pet owner and maybe it's your first pet, maybe it's your only pet, and you're honestly a little bit unsure, you don't really know what to do, and this pet is just the light of your life. And now something goes wrong. You sort of panic. For example, with my dog Carla, she started getting head tremors, which is basically just her head shaking. She literally looks like a bobblehead. I did a whole video on it, so you can go and watch that if you want to. But the first time that I saw that, I panicked. I was calm on the outside. I was like, good girl, it's fine. But I was panicking. I was like, listen, something is completely malfunctioning in this dog. The head should not move like this. Something is wrong. Something is very wrong. And in that moment, you just want someone to tell you that it's okay. You just want to know. You just want any amount of knowledge about what to do, what's going on, even if it's not good. You need to know something. So I also like giving people answers just to make them feel a bit calmer and just to relax and be like, okay, it's fine. Remember, don't panic. Never ever panic. There is nothing big enough or scary enough that it is necessary for you to panic. Okay? Don't panic. Just stay calm. It's okay. So the first advice that I would usually give is wait 24 hours, because they will usually say, geez, my dog's been looking off for today, or my cat's not looking like herself. Then I'm like, well, give it 24 hours. Give it until tomorrow afternoon and see what happens. If it gets worse, then you can obviously tell that something is wrong and it needs to be fixed by a vet. So take the cat or the dog to the vet. If it stays the same and you're really worried about it, then take it to the vet. If it stays the same, it doesn't seem like it's a big problem, then you can leave it for a while longer. For example, Carla's head tremors, they didn't seem to bother her at all, so I was fine with leaving it for a bit longer to see what happened. She wasn't in pain at all, so I was like, it's fine, it can wait a while. See how you feel, wait 24 hours, just see in which direction it goes, because honestly, so much goes on in a dog's body constantly, in a cat's body. In 24 hours, so many things happen, and their bodies are made to be able to fix itself. Obviously, some things are too big to be able to fix, and that's where vets come in. But usually, if something is wrong, it causes some sort of imbalance, and the body can, set it straight. So if the dog vomited once, don't worry, they maybe ate something funny. So don't panic from just one weird symptom or even two weird symptoms. Just see where it goes, and then you just take it from there. Another thing that I also like to tell them, which is actually very valuable and that I like to spread awareness about as much as possible, is that watch their food intake and output. Anything that goes in or out of that dog or cat, you need to watch. For example, is the dog eating at all? Now, I want to say that if the dog is eating because you are forcing food down its throat, that does not count as eating, okay? That is being force-fed, okay? If the dog is eating by itself, then it's a good sign. If the dog is not eating, don't force it because there's a reason for it. So rather clear up the reason than just forcing the dog to eat all the time. Okay, then you also need to check what comes out at whichever end. If the dog is getting sick, see what they are bringing up. Is it food, which means that they ate something and something is just causing the food to come up? Is it just slime, because that means that something is wrong enough that they're not eating at all? Is it a weird color? Because, for example, my dog, before he passed away, he started bringing up yellow stuff, like bright yellow, and that is gall from the gallbladder, which narrows down the list of possibilities of what this might be to a much shorter list. So if there is something particularly weird or strange about it, take note of it, because if you have to take the dog to the vet, They need to know these things. Then the same with what comes out at the other end. You have to look at poo a lot, the texture, the color, everything, because all of that can play a role in the diagnosis that the vet can make. Is it diarrhea? Is anything coming out? If there's nothing coming out, that could also mean something. If it's a weird color, if it's bright green, there's probably something abnormal. If it's a normal color. And also, is the dog drinking? Is it peeing? Maybe the pee is a particularly weird color. All of that, it makes a difference in the diagnosis. So you have to take note of all of that for if you take the dog to the vet. If there are particularly weird symptoms, for example, with my dog Collar, the head shaking, it's a difficult thing to describe to a vet, and the way that the shaking is happening and what it looks like can have a big effect on the diagnosis. For example, when I describe it, it sounds like a seizure, but when you look at the video that I took, you can tell it's not quite the same. That's why I took a video, so that I can take it to the vet so that they can see it for themselves, because I knew that the chances of her having a head tremor at the vet was very small. So if it's a continuous symptom that the vet will see, you obviously don't need to take a video. But if it is something strange happening, for example, the dog limping every now and then, or something like that, the cat just acting funny, or cats always act funny, but still, something like that happens, try to take a video so that you can show it to your vet. And then also make sure that the dog is comfortable, that they're not too warm or too cold, that nothing of the external environment, nothing obvious is really bothering them. If the dog is limping, check if they have a thorn in their foot, check for obvious things. And then just make sure that they're comfortable and that they're okay, and then just keep an eye on them. So that is the advice that I always give to people when they ask me, what should I do? Always, if it's not an emergency, wait 24 hours, see what direction it goes in, and check the intake and output of your dog. And I think that helps a lot of people to just feel calmer and to just have something to do and to just have a plan of action. So they don't have to sit there in the dark and wonder if what they're doing is right or wrong, or if what they should be doing or what would be best. They know that they can just wait for 24 hours and watch the dog and see what happens. It's something to do. It's a plan of action, and it makes everyone a lot calmer. And that is the big thing for me, because right now I cannot give you medical advice. Even if I did have an idea of what it was, I would still rather tell you to go to the vet, because I'm not qualified to make that decision of what it is. I'm not qualified to make a diagnosis. So I would rather let you go to the vet and be sure of what's happening, be sure of what to do, than of me guessing wrong and then the dog having to suffer for my mistake. And honestly, I also see it as a way to build up experience for myself, because always when someone comes to me with that, even if it's my best friend, the moment that they ask me that, I start to see them as a client. I try to take a professional standpoint and be like, okay, if I were a vet, how would I handle this? I need to remain calm. I need to give them information that they can use, that they can understand, and that'll keep them calm. I see it as work experience. Even if I cannot give you an answer, I would like to still help you. That is the whole goal of vets. We literally devote our life to helping animals. So if you do go to the vet with your pet, please don't have the whole attitude of the vet is just trying to get money out of you. We really don't go into this for the money. We go into this because we want to help animals. So don't think that we are trying to attack you or steal from you. We are on your side. We want what is best for your pet. So always keep that in mind when you go to a vet. With keeping the person calm and people quite often overreacting to small things, there is a big difference between a dog that is walking a little bit funny and a dog that is literally lying in front of you bleeding, okay? There are some emergencies that need to go to the vet right away, okay? And do not think, okay, the dog is bleeding today, but maybe it will stop by tomorrow. Okay, do not be those people who annoy vets so much because they bring in the dog 5 days too late to be able to help it, okay? When we have the ability to help the dog 5 days ago, okay? We cannot do that. It's not how it works. And I'm saying we as if I'm already a vet. I'm not, I'm just a student, but I've seen this so many times, and please don't make me have to deal with that one day. Okay, so anyway, first I'm going to tell you how to do it the right way, and then I'm going to tell you how to not do it. And I'm going to use examples that I had to deal with when I was shadowing. So firstly, I was shadowing at a clinic near my house, and people they were rushed in. It was adorable. It was so cute. It was that little sausage dog, and she was so cute. but she had 2 massive holes in her. There was like 2 massive puncture wounds in her side. So that is an emergency. So what happened was that, and it's gonna sound horrible when I start the story, but just, they weren't irresponsible, I promise. They were doing archery, and then they took a break and let the dogs out, and the archery target fell over, and it had like 2 spikes sticking out the side, and then it fell on the dog because the dogs were like playing around the archery target. And the target toppled over and it fell onto the dog and it stabbed the doggo. So obviously they made the smart decision. I mean, there are 2 gaping wounds in your dog. They rushed her to the vet. Luckily, there was no internal damage. Nothing was broken. It luckily just punctured the skin, but those targets are really heavy. I've worked with those targets. I'm surprised that it didn't crush the poor little thing's ribs or anything, but she was completely fine. We just had to stitch her up, put in a couple of drain tubes just to make sure that there's no accumulation of fluids. And then she was good to go later that day. Shame the people were so worried. They were like sitting in the waiting room panicking. The vet even sent me out at some point to just tell them that, listen, she's fine. I mean, I know it was scary, but she's okay. Don't worry. Don't panic. Remember, don't panic. And then now, so they did it the right way, okay? They saw that there was an emergency, they rushed in, and we got to take care of it. Now, I'm going to name 2 wrong things to do. The first one is a little bit less wrong, but it is still wrong, is actually a story that my mom told me when she was a receptionist at a vet when she was younger. And there was this old guy and he brought in this dog and the dog was literally bleeding to death in his arms. It had been hit by a car and he was standing at the back of the queue waiting to get to the front. Okay, listen, man, your dog is dying, okay? You walk to the front of the queue, you tell them, listen, this is an emergency, I need a vet now, okay? Vets are busy with consultations during consultation hours, okay? They can drop just about any consultation to save your dog's life. If it's a matter of life or death, you move, okay? You get to the front and you deal with it. Don't wait and be polite, okay? Life and death is more important than just being nice, okay? Now, the story that's gonna annoy me even more was I was shadowing at a vet. The people brought in this fox terrier and they were like, okay, so he ate rat poison about a week ago and he's not looking too good today. Okay, now you should have seen the vet. She was getting ready to scream at them and using every single professional instinct that she had to not do that, because apparently it is frowned upon. It is also frowned upon to kill your dog, but I mean, everyone makes mistakes, but if you know that your dog ate poison, please take him to the vet. Please. Seriously. Okay, so basically what rat poison does is that it thins out the blood until it bleeds out of the veins, and that poor dog had been going through that for about a week. And I still cannot understand how they saw their dog eating poison and they didn't think to take him to the vet. Because by the point we got to him, he basically didn't have any blood left. The vet was finding out if they had a big dog. So how it works when the dog is extremely anemic is that they need a blood transfusion. Anemic means that basically they don't have enough red blood cells. So the dog needed a blood transfusion, but we can only do blood transfusions from large dogs. When you donate blood or when there's a blood transfusion or something like that, the blood goes into a bag that can either be stored or immediately used, but in the bag there is already a substance that keeps the blood from clotting. And for the blood to be able to be reusable, the ratio has to be correct. And that amount you can only get from a large dog. Dogs also don't have blood groups the way that we do. They don't have, like A and B and O blood groups. They can all share blood. Then we had to do an emergency blood transfusion. I remember the vet was getting so frustrated because if only they brought him in a week ago when this happened, even a day ago. Why do you wait until your dog is at death's door before you take them? Just to sum it all up, because I have gone all over the place now, is that if your dog is really, really sick, take it to the vet. Not to me, take it to the vet, okay? The vet knows what to do and the vet can do it. Secondly, if someone comes to you as a vet student with an issue with their pet, be patient, handle it professionally, because at the very least it is experience for you. Also, remember to check up afterwards to hear if the dog got better, and if it's an emergency, whether you're a vet student, a vet, or whether you're none of that and you just have a pet, if it's an emergency, take it to the vet, act quickly, and don't panic. Just don't panic. So this was just a quick fun video for you guys, something that I'm sure a lot of you can relate to. And I hope that it taught some people some things. I hope that it gave some hints and tips. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Remember, don't panic, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!